Hi, so this is In Session with Beth and Steph. We're just going to do a quick introduction.
Hi, my name is Bethany. I am a speech and language therapist based in Dubai, but all my education and training in the Philippines.
Hi, I'm Steph. I am also clearly in Dubai. I'm an occupational therapist and I'm originally from South Africa. That's where I did most of my training. So why are we here?
I don't know, why are we here?
Why did we decide to do this podcast?
I think a lot of it is because, a lot of people still, it's not a lack of awareness, but just have a lot of questions, curious about the practice itself. Also, parents that, have little kids, the parents that we work with, the partner parents that we have, do tend to have a lot of questions, and it's just a nice way of releasing that also, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's also like sometimes there's a miss between why must I do speech therapy, why must I do OT, why must I do both? And
And what is it? I think I feel a lot of the questions that come, because therapy is very literal, I think. But OT, even I get a lot of questions that, we've been recommended for OT, but I don't know what that is.
yeah.
So, and I don't know if I explain it right all the time. So,
And I think it is a nice space for us to, like, if there's a speech therapist watching, from understanding as you're a speech therapist, why I would be helpful for you and why you would be helpful. Yeah, and why, especially because we work in pediatrics, how together it's just so much easier. And we're lucky that we work together at the same place with the same kids, that it's easy for us to communicate and reach the goals that we need to reach. And I think, yeah, sometimes there's a miss between, as therapists, are we needing goals together, or do we have our separate goals that they actually don't align at all for the family, for the kid? The expectation is not meeting, right? I can't expect, and we've had a case like this where I couldn't understand this child, how many he could understand what questions, but I was using too many words in my sentence, and then I was, okay, does he understand the concept, or are there too many words that he needs to process? And that's where Beckney came in. I was like, well, we're in the actual session together. And I was able to ask her that question and make so much sense for me. And now I'm applying it with all of my kids. And especially when we have kids that are, the same.
yeah.
That's usually my first go-to. What can they process,
Yeah, and the same way for me, especially when, and you hear this all the time, the word dysregulation.
Yeah.
Or they're not regulated enough. And speech therapy is a little bit more structured than OT. And when you come across a child, especially with someone on the spectrum and have sensory processing difficulties, it's very hard for me to understand how I can make them achieve my goals, or I can help them kind of like with their speech and language goals without understanding the sensory part of it. That's where OT comes in. And many times I've come to Stephanie to just ask, what can I do in this setting to have him more focused, or to just be able to communicate a little bit more, especially with, like you said, like kids that we see on the same day even, or in the same week. It's just easier when I know what to do on the sensory aspect of it, or like movement aspect of it.
Yeah.
It helps the child kind of, be able to communicate more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is why you get the referrals at the same time.
Exactly. I think a lot of the time for parents, it's so overwhelming. Like, but can't I just start with one and shift to the other?
Yeah.
Technically, yes, but is your child gonna reach their full potential by doing that? Like, what is the best? And for all kids, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be they need to start OT and speech therapy at the same time. They need to start speech first. They need to OT first. It's all dependent on the situation and the child. And yeah, and I think that covers that question. Who is this for?
I thought it was for me. So I get buried and don't care. Who is this for?
Who are we aiming to just give all of this information to? Not just each other, having a gad sesh.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be that, but would be that most of it. Okay? I think it's definitely for parents and therapists.
Yeah.
I think what we aim to do is give the extra information to parents that you won't necessarily get all the time in a session.
Yeah.
In a feedback session, in an assessment session, and more of a broader term. So it's It's when we tell a parent, your child is dysregulated sometimes. They shouldn't be feeling that their child is the only one that's like this. We're aimed to bring light to a lot of cases and situations where similar things have happened. And also for therapists, not as maybe educational, but just therapists that are in the same boat. And we also aim to give some tips and tricks and, things that we've figured out when we struggled with one thing. How can we address it another way?
I feel like therapists is, of course, we've talked about how it helps parents and families, but for other professionals specifically, it can be something really relatable.
Yeah.
Because when I come across someone, with their like individual reels or something like that, and I send it to you, right?
Yeah. And what?
This is so us, and it's just a nice way to kind of like find people, like you said, that are on the same boat, but also just to open a discussion.
Yeah.
If there's something that I'm doing that could be helpful for somebody else, or somebody else could suggest something that we could do like that in situation, that would be a really nice. This community is quite small, especially here.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a nice reach, kind of like reaching out to other professionals and professionals also in the field, but not like in medically in the field,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not in allied health, so that they understand. Because not to say anything, but sometimes the doctors, they know who to refer to, but exactly what's been done in the therapies, that gets lost along the way. So that's something that we can not educate, but just shed some light.
I think also that's why we've kind of labeled this in session with Beth and Steph, to give you a bird's eye view, fly on the wall sort of experience to what our sessions are like, how we work together, and what you can, do in your sessions or at home. And I think also, because we work with a lot of kids, I think this is also for teachers.
Oh yeah,
I think it could definitely beneficial, because sometimes for me, I will talk to teacher. Oh, okay, this is a sensory diet. What do you mean? It's to explain in a quick meeting with the teacher, because
especially if they just
do bump into you into hallways. Exactly.
so speech therapy in a nutshell is, of course, it helps children communicate, develop their speech, develop language, understand words, how words connect with each other to form a thought, basically express their thoughts and connect with another person. It also manages feeding difficulties, swallowing difficulties, hearing impairments. What else that people don't know that we do? Social communication, like social groups, and being able to relate to another person or understand pragmatics of a situation, like what to say in certain things, because we get these kids that kind of like know what to say but don't know when to say it.
Yeah.
So basically that.
Okay, yeah. What is OT? OT. What is OT? That's a question that's been asked. Multiple times. Occupational therapy, especially in pediatrics, we want to help our kiddos be able to function in any environment and with any occupations. Occupation be any activity or task that's put in front of them. So a task from eating to writing in school to putting their pants on to brushing their teeth to being able to do physical education, PE, in a classroom, to be able to interact with their siblings, with their parents, to form a connection or bond, right? Very broad. But we look at what is a child struggling with? What is the underlying cause? Is it their fine motor skills? Is it their gross motor skills? And is it their sensory processing? And that we either change the environment, change the task, or help the child learn new skills to be able to cope with the task or the environment. All your activities, all your occupations, what is stopping you? What are the skills that you're missing? If you can't develop those skills for whatever reason, how can we change the environment and the task? It's all about adaptation and learning something new. So yeah.
And then I go say, go ask BOT. This is the OT that I was referring to. This is your session. Go ask them.
So yeah, this is super exciting.
Hi, this is In Session with Beth and Steph. I'm Beth, I'm a speech and language pathologist.
And I'm Steph, I'm an occupational therapist. Stay tuned for some tips, tricks, and more. See you soon. Bye.